Developing tonight, the Trump administration has released thousands of classified files on JFK's 1963 assassination. President Trump ordered the release, aiming to uncover details about JFK, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr.'s killings. Professional historians are still reviewing the new documents, which include insights on Lee Harvey Oswald and CIA operations.
John F. Kennedy's assassination remains one of the most discussed and analyzed events in modern history, captivating researchers, historians, and conspiracy theorists for more than 6 decades. The newly released JFK files, made public by the Trump administration, add another layer to this long-running saga. Today, let's take a look at some fascinating details hidden within the newly declassified JFK files. The CIA's elaborate surveillance operation in Mexico City.
Mexico City, the CIA agents were instructed to cease and desist their investigation of a possible Castro connection to Oswald's assassinating of President Kennedy. There was a near mutiny among the CIA agents over this order to stop the investigation. The ambassador to Mexico City stated he was given orders from his superiors to stop the investigation, and then commented, well, if the president's own brother agreed with it, I guess we'd have to go along with it.
Among the most eye-opening revelations from the declassified files is the extent of the CIA surveillance in Mexico City. During the early 1960s, the CIA had heavily infiltrated both the Soviet and Cuban embassies in Mexico's capital, conducting wiretaps, monitoring visitors, and even planting informants within their ranks. This surveillance gained new importance when Lee Harvey Oswald visited these embassies in September 1963. Newly released documents confirm that the CIA had an elaborate system in place to track embassy communications, including wiretaps embedded in telephone lines and listening devices installed inside embassy buildings. More startlingly, the files reveal a covert technique involving the use of UV reactive chemicals on embassy telephones, allowing intelligence operatives to determine which devices had been used and by whom. Despite this extensive surveillance, the files do not include transcripts of Oswald's conversations at the embassies, leaving lingering questions about what he discussed with officials. The FBI's lost and now found files on Oswald.
We have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading. I don't believe we're going to redact anything. I said, just don't redact. You can't redact.
One of the most surprising disclosures from the recent declassification is the FBI's revelation that it had only recently uncovered 2,400 previously unknown records related to Kennedy's assassination. These were not included in the latest release and remain classified, raising questions about their contents and why they remained undiscovered for so long. While the files that were made public do not include these newly found records, they confirm that the FBI had been closely tracking Oswald before November 22, 1963. Newly disclosed memos indicate that the agency had informants watching Oswald's activities, particularly his involvement with pro-Castro organizations. Another critical revelation is that the FBI received a warning about a potential threat to Oswald's life after his arrest, but failed to act on it. The warning came just hours before Oswald was shot by Jack Ruby, raising further questions about the FBI's handling of the case. A Soviet embassy informant and Oswald's visit.
Did you kill the president?
No, I've not been charged with that. In fact, nobody has said that to me yet. The first thing I heard about it was when the newspaper reporters in the hall asked me that question.
You have been.
Nobody said what?
Sir?
You have been.
Nobody said what? Okay, we can't hear you back. Okay.
What did you do in Russia?
The newly released files confirm that the CIA was attempting to recruit double agents from the Soviet embassy in Mexico City at the time of Oswald's visit. One document references an unnamed Soviet embassy worker who was allegedly passing intelligence to the CIA. Although these files do not explicitly mention Oswald's interactions, the revelation that the U.S. had inside sources within the Soviet embassy raises the question of whether American intelligence had prior knowledge of his conversations there. If such records exist, they have yet to be made public. The CIA's covert plans to overthrow Fidel Castro.
Hasta la victoria siempre.
Among the most heavily redacted sections of previous releases were those concerning the CIA's efforts to destabilize or assassinate Cuban leader Fidel Castro. The newly disclosed files confirm these efforts were more extensive than previously understood. A June 1961 memo from Kennedy aide Arthur Schlesinger Jr. criticized the CIA's aggressive stance towards Cuba, revealing that President Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, were skeptical of these efforts. The files further confirm that the CIA worked with organized crime figures in multiple assassination attempts against Castro, a relationship that RFK sought to closely monitor. Another document details a discussion among CIA officials in 1964 under President Lyndon Johnson about potentially reviving assassination plans against Castro. The FBI had intelligence on Oswald's plans before the assassination.
The documents revealed that Lee Harvey Oswald, who said weeks earlier in Mexico he wanted to kill Kennedy, was being closely tracked by both the CIA and FBI.
A newly unredacted memo reveals that an informant had reported Oswald's increasingly radical views and potential for violence before the assassination. The document states that Oswald had spoken about assassinating a political figure, but does not specify whether Kennedy was mentioned by name. The CIA's efforts to control foreign political figures. The files also reveal new details about the CIA's influence in foreign governments. Newly declassified memos indicate that the agency tried to monopolize contact with key political figures in France and Chile, often without the knowledge of the Kennedy administration. One document outlines efforts by U.S. intelligence to control high-ranking officials in the French government, including the President of the National Assembly. In Chile, CIA actively recruited informants within government institutions. The ongoing debate over the Warren Commission's conclusions.
We did have the problem, as you know, of dealing with conspiracy and the problem that you'll hear about more from my colleagues, but the overwhelming problem from the outset was that it is always impossible analytically to prove a negative. And here the task was to prove there was no conspiracy.
The newly released files reveal internal government discussions about whether releasing additional information would calm public concerns or fuel further conspiracy theories. A 1968 intelligence memo, declassified for the first time, acknowledges that RFK's assassination later that year reignited skepticism over the official findings of the Warren Commission. The memo notes that international critics of the U.S. government viewed both JFK and RFK's deaths as politically motivated conspiracies. Newly classified CIA wiretap instructions. Among the most revealing sections of the newly unsealed documents are specific instructions detailing how the CIA conducted wiretaps. One manual outlines how agents could use small chemical applications to mark telephones, which would then glow under UV light to confirm whether a particular line had been used. These instructions highlight the technological sophistication of CIA surveillance at the time. The file suggests the methods were used in multiple locations beyond Mexico City, reinforcing the idea that similar tactics were employed in U.S. intelligence operations worldwide. The FBI's tracking of JFK conspiracy theories. The declassified documents also show that the FBI actively monitored conspiracy theories about Kennedy's assassination in the years following the event. Some records reveal internal discussions about public sentiment and how the government could manage skepticism over the official narrative. One memo describes concerns that the release of too much information at once could further erode public trust, a factor that led some documents remaining classified for decades. The release of the files now provides insights into how the government viewed public perception of the assassination. The CIA's surveillance of Oswald in the U.S. While much attention has been paid to Oswald's activity in Mexico City, the newly released files suggest the CIA continued monitoring him upon his return to the U.S. A previously redacted document alludes to a joint effort between the CIA and FBI to track Oswald's movements, though the specifics remain unclear. The revelation raises further questions about whether Oswald's actions in the weeks leading up to the assassination were more closely watched than previously admitted. If intelligence agencies had any inkling of Oswald's plans, why was he not intercepted before he carried them out? The mystery continues.
The way America is structured today, No matter what comes out of these documents, half the country is going to say, see, they're lying to us. And the other half is going to say, I knew it all along.
The release of these newly declassified JFK files has provided an unprecedented look into the intelligence operations, surveillance efforts, and covert activities that surrounded one of the most shocking assassinations in history. They confirm long-held suspicions about the depth of CIA and FBI involvement in tracking Oswald, offer new details on Cold War espionage tactics, and reveal the extent to which the U.S. government was engaged in clandestine efforts to influence global politics. Yet, for all that's been disclosed, they also highlight the frustrating gaps that remain in the official record. Now it's time to hear from you. What do you think about the details revealed in these newly declassified files? Let us know in the comments section below.